What is going on, you guys? Welcome back to another video of analysis and charting breakdown. In this video, we're going to go over some of the charts that our group members requested or our community requested, and including in those charts is going to be Riot and MARA, which are huge right now in the Bitcoin sector. They're both crypto mining stocks, so very much lots of hype around those. So it's going to be a very exciting charting analysis, so I hope you guys enjoy it. First, we're going to start off with Facebook. Facebook is in a little bit of a funk right now because they are doing outstanding in terms of their revenue, in terms of their business model, their growth, their marketing. They are doing outstanding. They are only growing. However, they are seeing a problem from the legal side, which is putting them at risk of potentially breaking up because they could be considered a monopoly, and a lot of other class action lawsuits could be getting filed against them because of different reasons, privacy reasons, political reasons, and whatnot. In terms of their chart, investors really only care about growth. So anything in the short term is going to be very much what it is for Facebook, and that is short term. In terms of the long term gain on any stock or any company, overall long term, if revenue is growing and income is growing, that means the stock's price will be growing. All the fluctuations in the middle are not going to matter too much, but as traders or as swing traders or day traders, we capitalize on the short term movement. So this leads us to our next point, which is what is going on in Facebook's chart right now. Well, considering there's so much in the news about it, entering Facebook on any setup is going to be high risk. No matter if you enter bullish or bearish, it's just high risk because it's unexpected what could happen next for them, because we are still in the middle of the class action lawsuits, and actions are being taken against them. So in terms of their specific daily chart, so right now we're on the daily chart. We're looking at the last 5 days, and we can see that there's a lot of weird movement. Every day has a long wick to the bottom, and then the stock manages to push back up. Long wick at the top. So all this means is that there's a lot of indecision that's going on within the stock. You can see that through the day there's a very large range. It's not too big, but there's definitely a range that the stock is reaching all the way down to 270 at the low of day, and then reaching 276 at the high of day. That means there's really no consistency in the stock, meaning that we really don't know what direction it really wants to go next. So that is a big question right now. What we are seeing from Facebook is a solid resistance line that's taking place at the 20-day moving average and the 10-day moving average, and you can also see that it's finding support at the 100-day moving average. So if we switch this to the 100-day moving average, you can see that it keeps bouncing off the 100-day moving average. Therefore, if you want entry on Facebook or a place where you could short it, that would be right below that 100-day moving average. You want to enter, and you either are entering bullish and you want to put a stop loss just below the 100-day MA, or you are entering bearish and you want it to break below the 100-day MA to fall to its next support, which is going to be at $260. So that's Facebook for you. Very simple. A lot of indecisiveness in this chart. That 100-day MA is going to be your best friend. The next stock we're going to cover is going to be FSR or Fisker. So a lot of commotion around Fisker as well, only because it is an EV name. So it's an electric vehicle company. Fisker has been around. They were rebranded, and then a SPAC brought them to the market. So a special acquisition company took them into the market and made them public. And considering it is the year of SPACs and it's the year of electric vehicles as well, Fisker has a lot of commotion going on around it. Let's see what's going on with this chart. So we can see that Fisker, it has been a little bit volatile. So the stock, right when it first came onto the public market through the merger, it shot up to 22, has come back since, has reached a low of $8 at one point before bouncing back and coming back to 24. So there's definitely not a lot of consistency in this chart, but we know that it's for the most part trending up, and it's also using that 100-day MA as the main support. Notice how when the stock broke below that 100-day moving average, it fell apart completely. That is because of the significance of that 100-day moving average support. But keep in mind that the stock has not been public for a very long time, so the 100-day moving average is not so solidified as a stock that's been on the market for over a few years, because now that price point has a few more years of reinforcement to act as support or resistance. But anyways, In terms of the daily chart and the daily candles on Fisker, we can see that the stock is not doing too good, but it's also not doing too bad. You're also using the 100-day moving average as your main support right over here. So your main support is the 100-day moving average, or right around $14. Entry is safe on the stock above that 100-day moving average. So you can enter the stock and you can actually use that point as a stop loss, or a point right below it as a stop loss. And then you can just hang on to the stock until it finally sees the light of day and it breaks out of 16. $16 is the primary resistance that you're focused on in the stock for a breakout. A breakout above 16 will take it to its next range in between 16 and $18. Then the stock is expected to consolidate between these two price points until it finally reaches another resistance and it gains enough momentum to break out of 18, assuming that this company is healthy, assuming that this company is going to continue thriving and delivering and actually bringing in live models into production. We are going to assume that the stock is going to continue moving forward, but we don't have a lot of history. This is just short-term technical analysis. The stock can break 18 and then eventually move into that $22 to $24 price target. The next stock we're going to cover is going to be Riot. So this is going to be one of the big ones that we're looking for. You can see we have a lot of historical analysis done on this chart already. I'm going to go ahead and remove all this completely, and we're going to focus on the now. So what has happened in Riot that has massively moved up the stock? It really wasn't Riot itself. It was just the fact that this is a blockchain company. So they are already in a great field, which is blockchain technology. And they also mine cryptocurrency. And we all know how big cryptocurrency is these days. So the stock is moving accordingly. And Bitcoin is also moving up a ton, which is helping the stock. So what has happened in Riot since? So the stock initially, on its very first strong breakout, broke out from the $4 resistance. So that was the strongest resistance it had, and it broke out. You can see that there's a massive breakout volume candle, and that continued to move up over the weeks, and it reached a high of $11.30 before pulling back. On the pullback, we can see that the stock started to form what looks like a wedge down on the pullback. So what are our main supports that we wanted the stock to pull back to? So considering the stock broke out from the $4 support, we know that that's a strong support. And then we also know that this is a strong support because the stock has bounced off of it twice. And now we also know that this is also a strong support because once again, the stock has bounced off of it twice. So now we have what looks like a step ladder over and over again, that the stock comes down, bounces up, comes down, bounces up. However, it is moving in a bit of a vertical motion over here, which is why this pullback was so strong, all the way from $11.30 down to $8.30, which is about 30% of the stock. This is a strong pullback. This is not an easy pullback to go through for you guys holding the position long, and you guys saw it at 12 at one point. You had to see it back at 8. That is a bit tough, but one thing that kept us holding our ground on this one is the fact that the stock pulled back. However, it stayed above all the other steps that it's made. So all these other supports were never broken for us to start worrying, and the stock stayed above that 20-day moving average through the pullback period, which is a very promising sign. And what happened since? The stock had wedged down, it looks like, and it popped yesterday. So yesterday it made a little breakout candle, but it could not hold. Always pay attention to stocks that broke out of a pattern, but they could not hold, because the following day or the following week, usually they actually end up holding that breakout and continuing up. You can see that volume flowed through today, and it took the stock up above yesterday's high, which is exactly where we want it to be, closing above $10. So a lot of upside potential for the stock still to come. When we look back in its history, there is definitely more room to run. You can see that the moving averages are just beginning to cross. Volume is gaining. So you can see so much accumulation volume happening over the last few months. Back in May, we have a very nice gain of volume. Massive volume came through last month, and now we are seeing volume accumulate again. So definitely a lot of upside potential. As long as crypto is moving up, I do believe that Riot will continue moving up with it. And we are going to talk about MARA in just a little bit, but first we're going to go over gold, or GLD. Very important thing that's happening with gold is that gold typically is the safety net investment for a lot of traders. However, with Bitcoin in the picture, it's definitely taken some of the light away from gold. That's not downplay the importance of gold, however, to the market and how it plays out with the weakening dollar. So investors do tend to put their money in gold when they are seeing any type of economic weakness or weakness in the dollar. In terms of its chart, gold has not been at this high since back in 2011. So we are definitely at an all-time high for GLD in specific. And it looks like we are seeing a very fluid movement overall, and this pullback was necessary. So we may see an upward movement again from gold. So what has happened over the last few months is gold had made it all the way up to 194.60, and it pulled back to just around the neckline in which it broke out of. So stocks that break out of a very strong resistance or any resistance at all, they have a tendency to come back down to retest it as support. And that's exactly what we're seeing happen from gold. We can see that this nice fluid cup-like handle pattern had been forming, and then now it's actually on its handle part. So it's pulling back and trying to bounce back up. Therefore, we can assume that if the dollar continues to weaken, we actually may see gold increase even more. So very interesting to see this play out. Let's see what's happening with the short-term daily candles. We can see that gold is looking like it's beginning to form a channel down pattern that it's trying to break out of. So the stock had tried to break out at this point, but it failed and came back down. And now we're seeing this strong green volume starting to flow in, and it wants to try to break out again. So what is our goal here? We want it to break out of the channel and break out above the previous high that it made. So this is the previous high that it made at $178. We want gold to break out above that point, come back down, and continue to move up slowly away from this channel down pattern and up towards a new high to test the all-time high of 194 and eventually break out to a 200 plus price target. The next stock we're going to talk about is going to be Space or Virgin Galactic. So they have had a tough few days after some kind of failure with their launch, and you can see that this is why position sizing is so important. The stock could look great, everything about this chart looked great, and then all of a sudden this news comes out that completely obliterates everything that it worked for. So what has happened since? The stock dropped completely and it fell below the 10 and the 20-day moving averages with very strong volume, and it's now pulling back to what looks like the $24 support. So this is the next point we want to watch for the stock. We want to make sure that it remains above the $24 support. Although with this kind of volume, it's going to have a hard time maintaining that 24. So it may actually come down further to the $22 support before attempting a bounce up. Considering the last 2 days have been very strong selling, we may see a bounce from them tomorrow. That bounce will likely get stopped out right around 26.50 before the stock begins to flitter and eventually will come down further just based on this volume, assuming that no other news comes out. In terms of the stock's current position, there's not really a good setup to enter the stock on as it currently stands. I would wait for further development before continuing and trading the stock. The next stock we're going to talk about is VLDR or Velodyne. So let's see what's happening with the stock. I'm not too familiar with this company, so I can't speak on them, but I will tell you that they are actually experiencing a lot of selling volume based on today. So the company was doing fine. This chart is not a terrible chart, but you want definitely to see that selling volume slow down a little bit, because with this amount of pressure from the top, you're looking at a very bearish sided trade. So let's see what's happening in the smaller candles. We are looking for a support. We're looking for the stock to maintain the $18 support here, and we're looking for it to consolidate between 18 and 22. So the stock is healthy as long as it remains within this range. We want to eventually have it break out above 22 and eventually move into the $22 to $26 range before continuing to consolidate and move higher. So there's definitely potential in the stock, but you can see it also does not have a lot of consistency, which may work against you. So as long as it stays above 18, it's going to be in neutral position. Anywhere below 18, I would start to kind of worry. Anything below 14, I would not hold, and especially below 12, that should be your one and final last support for the stock before you get out of it. So you definitely want the stock to stay between 18 and 22 and eventually test 22 to break out to 26. And then if it does break out to 26, then we'll have to adjust a new price target for it. The next stock we're going to talk about is going to be VRM or Vroom. So Vroom looks like has been selling off for quite a while. So let's take a look at the daily candles. We can see that the stock has been selling off for some time, and now it's gaining some volume. So we can see some accumulating volume over the last few days. There's one strong bar of volume and then 4 strong bars of volume as the stock begins to try to recover. So there is some hope for this stock. Your primary support in this case is going to be at $32. So if you are in the stock or looking to get in, you can enter and you can place a firm stop loss just below that $32 support, and you can ride it out. The next resistance that you're focused on here is for it to break $40. So if the stock continues to consolidate between 32 and 40, that's not a bad thing. You also have a support at 36. So the best thing you can see happen here is that the stock continues to consolidate between 36 and 40 and eventually begins to step stool, and as soon as it breaks above that $40 resistance, you can now make it a support, and the stock confirms that it's trying to attempt a reversal, and you can actually enter the stock safely. Eventually the price target is going to be $48 before you want to collect some profit, and then eventually what you want the stock to do, and which would be in a perfect world, is for more consolidation to happen above 40, and then eventually it breaks out of 48 and you can turn that into your support and keep moving up that stop loss and that price target as the stock moves up. The next stock we're going to talk about is going to be BBD. So what is going on with BBD? I'm not too familiar with what this company does. What is this company? Let me go ahead and check to see. Provision of financial and insurance services. So this is a financial and insurance services company. So let's see what's happening with it. We can see that it was doing okay for itself, sort of, through the years. There's not a lot of consistency for sure in this company. I typically don't like to see stocks or trade stocks that have this much inconsistency in their patterns. However, let's see what it's doing on the short-term basis. We can see that the stock is actually running its way up, and it's doing so in a healthy fashion. And we have a support at $5. We have a support at $4.50, and we have a resistance at $5.35. So there is definitely some kind of potential in the stock, but I'm not really enjoying the pattern too much. I do believe that there are better setups out there. You can eventually come around to enter the stock on a $5.35 breakout. Your price target in this case is going to be right around 5.90 to 6, but I would try to look for something else. There's not a lot of potential in this company, especially with this vertical pattern. This could easily break back down and come back to 450 before continuing to push higher. Next stock we're going to talk about is going to be QS or QuantumScape. So this is fairly a young company on the market. We don't have a lot of historical analysis, but we do know that the company is now riding right around the 10-day moving average, in which it has bounced off of before. So there's a good sign for your entry. The stock has came up before, came down to the 10-day moving average, and proved that it can bounce off of it. Therefore, this is a perfect entry for a stock right over here. You can see that the stock is giving you the same exact chance since the pullback. It's come down to the 10-day moving average. It's not guaranteed to hold that 10-day moving average, but if you're looking for a low risk entry, you can enter here and you can use that 10-day moving average as your primary support with a stop loss right below it as you ride the stock up. What you want to happen from here is you want the stock to break out of this resistance, which is the $65 resistance, and then make another high to the $72 resistance, and then eventually to test the $77 resistance to continue moving up. Considering this is an IPO, it is still a bit of a high risk stock because we do not have a lot of history at these price points. Therefore, there's not a lot of reinforcement of the historical analysis. However, there is a chance to enter the stock and use that 10-day moving average as your primary support. Last and final stock we're going to talk about is going to be MARA. And before we continue to MARA, if you guys do like what you see, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. That would really help our cause. But let's take a look at what MARA is up to. So MARA is an absolute beauty. What a monster move after creating this cup and handle pattern. You can see that the stock formed this cup. And just like the stock we were talking about earlier, I believe it was gold. You can see that it formed a cup and now it's formed a handle in which kind of looks like a wedge down, channel down pattern as well. And the stock had same exact thing that happened with Riot. You can see that the stock had this channel down pattern. It bounced up, couldn't hold, came back down, bounced off the top of the channel, and then this morning it opened up above that 10-day moving average, came and bounced off of it perfectly at 550 before shooting up and gaining over 20% by end of day. So a very impressive move by MARA. any stock with this amount of volume over the last few weeks accumulating is going to continue moving up unless something dramatic happens to Bitcoin or something dramatic happens to the companies inside. This is a winning setup. This is a winning chart right over here. Let's take a look at what MARA's history looks like. We can see that it's creating this very fluid breakout. So just like Riot's volume started in May, MARA's volume started in May, continued to push, continued to gain, continued to accumulate, and now MARA is on its way to that $7.75 price target, and then also it's on its way to its next price target of $8.50. Very exciting chart right over here. Anyways, you guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did, please give us a thumbs up. If you want to see more, please subscribe to the channel. Thanks for checking.